Commander Elara Chen stood at the viewport of the United Earth Defense Forces flagship, the Resilient, and stared into the swirling vortex that threatened to consume everything she had ever known. The cosmic anomaly had appeared 3 days ago at the edge of the solar system, growing exponentially with each passing hour. Earth's finest scientists had confirmed what Elara already suspected. This was no natural phenomenon. "Commander," Lieutenant Park called from his station, "we are receiving a transmission. Unknown origin." Elara turned, her dark eyes narrowing. "Put it through." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a being unlike any Elara had encountered in her 15 years of service. Body appeared to be composed of crystalline structures that shifted and rearranged themselves constantly, creating an ever-changing form that somehow maintained a vaguely humanoid shape. When it spoke, its voice resonated with harmonic overtones that made the air vibrate. "Human vessel," it said, each syllable cascading like water over stones. "I am Arix of the Valoth Collective. The anomaly you observe is a void fracture. Your species lacks the capability to address this threat. I require immediate extraction." Elara crossed her arms. "And why should I trust you?" The crystalline being's form pulsed with what might have been frustration. "Because, Commander Chen, without my assistance, your solar system will be consumed within 72 of your hours, followed by your galactic arm, and eventually, the universe itself." "How do you know my name?" Elara demanded. "The same way I know that you keep a physical photograph of your daughter in your quarters despite having perfect digital replicas. The same way I know that your species, despite its primitive technology, possesses qualities that may prove essential to preventing universal annihilation." The being paused. "Time is limited, Commander. The choice is yours." Elara looked back at the growing vortex, then to her crew. In her gut, she knew this decision would change everything. "Send coordinates," she said finally. "We are coming to get you." The extraction hadn't gone according to plan. The Valoth vessel was under attack by what Arix called Void Sentinels, amorphous entities composed of dark energy that seemed to feed on the ship's power systems. By the time the Resilient had arrived, the Valoth craft was crippled, its crystalline hull fracturing under the assault. Now, 12 hours later, Elara sat across from Arix in the ship's secure conference room, separated by a force field that the alien had assured her was unnecessary. "Your caution is logical but misplaced," Arix said, its form shifting constantly, refracting light in hypnotic patterns. "Had I wished to harm you or your crew, I would have done so already. Forgive me if I don't take your word for it," Elara replied. "Now explain this void fracture and why you think we can help." Arix's form stilled momentarily, creating the impression of concentration. "The void fracture is a tear in the fabric of reality, created by an ancient technology my people developed millennia ago, the Nexus Key. It was designed to access parallel dimensions, to create shortcuts through space-time. But something went wrong. You're saying your people caused this?" Elara leaned forward, anger rising in her chest. "You endangered the entire universe with your experiments?" "Not my generation," Arix corrected. "The key was lost ages ago, believed destroyed. Someone has recovered it, reactivated it without understanding its parameters. The Valoth Collective sent me to locate the key and deactivate it before the fracture becomes irreparable." "And where is this key?" Arix's crystalline structure emitted a soft, resonant hum. "According to my calculations, it is currently located on your planet Earth, specifically in what you call the Mariana Trench." Elara's blood ran cold. "Earth? How is that possible?" "Unknown. But what matters is retrieving it immediately. My ship is destroyed, my technology compromised. I need your vessel, your crew." Arix paused, crystals rearranging into a configuration that somehow conveyed earnestness. "And I need you, Commander Chen." "Me? Why me specifically?" The Nexus Key responds to consciousness patterns. It was calibrated to Valoth neural structures, but in its damaged state, it's become unstable. My analysis of your species indicates that human consciousness, particularly your capacity for intuitive problem-solving and emotional reasoning, may create a complementary pattern that could stabilize the key long enough to deactivate it. Elara stood and paced the room. "So let me get this straight. An ancient alien device is creating a tear in reality that could destroy everything, And the solution is for you and me too. What? Mind meld with it. An imprecise, but not entirely inaccurate description, Arix replied. Commander, I understand your skepticism. My people have observed humanity for centuries. You are volatile, unpredictable, often irrational. But these very qualities may be our salvation. The universe has a peculiar sense of symmetry. Elara stopped pacing and looked directly at the alien. And if I refuse, then I will attempt to retrieve the key alone, though my probability of success drops to nearly zero. And you, Commander Chen, will never see your daughter again. None of us will see anything again. The mention of Maya made Elara's jaw clench. Her daughter was back on Earth, just 11 years old, probably watching the strange vortex in the sky with that mix of fear and fascination she reserved for thunderstorms. Lieutenant Park, Elara called, knowing the officer was monitoring from the adjacent room. Set course for Earth. Maximum speed. She turned back to Arix. I'm not saying I trust you, but I don't think we have much choice. The crystalline being's form shifted into what might have been a nod. A wise decision, Commander. Perhaps there is hope for us yet. The descent module plunged through Earth's atmosphere, its heat shields glowing orange against the night sky. Inside, Elara checked her deep-sea gear one final time, while Arix observed with what she had come to recognize as curiosity. Your species relies heavily on equipment, the alien noted. It is both a weakness and a strength. We can't all be living crystal formations, Elara replied, securing her oxygen supply. Some of us need to breathe. A biological inefficiency, but not without its advantages. Your dependence on oxygen has driven remarkable adaptations in your species. Before Elara could respond, Lieutenant Park's voice came through the comm. Commander, I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the target area. The fracture's influence appears to be accelerating. Understood, Elara said. Maintain position and be ready for immediate extraction once we have secured the key. The module hit the ocean with a jarring splash, its specialized thrusters immediately engaging to control the descent into the abyssal depths of the Mariana Trench. As they sank deeper, the darkness became absolute, broken only by the module's external lights and the faint bioluminescence of deep-sea creatures. We are approaching the target coordinates, Elara said, checking the instruments. Pressure hull integrity at 97%. We should be fine for the next 6 hours. Arix moved closer to the viewport, its crystalline body emitting a soft glow that intensified as they descended. The key signature is growing stronger. It's definitely here, but something is wrong. Define wrong, Elara said tersely. The energy pattern is distorted. Something, or someone, is actively using the key. The module's sensors suddenly flared with warnings as they passed the 8,000-meter mark. Through the viewport, Elara could see a pulsating light emanating from a structure that had no business being at this depth. It resembled a temple of some kind, its architecture distinctly non-human, yet not matching any known alien designs either. That shouldn't be there, she muttered, a chill running down her spine despite the module's regulated temperature. No, Arix agreed, its voice taking on a harmonic quality that Elara had learned indicated distress. This is unexpected. The temple appears to be a hybrid construction, part Valoth technology, part something else, something ancient. As they approached, the light intensified, and Elara could make out movement around the structure. Humanoid figures in what appeared to be specialized deep-sea suits, moving with purposeful efficiency. Humans? She whispered in disbelief. How is that possible at this depth? Their suits appear to incorporate Valoth technology, Arix observed. Highly modified, but the base principles are unmistakable. Elara's mind raced. Someone on Earth found Valoth tech before this? Before the fracture appeared? It would seem so. Arix's form contracted slightly. This complicates our mission significantly. Elara made a quick decision. We need to know what we are dealing with. I'm setting down behind that rock formation. We will approach on foot. You mean to confront them directly? Arix's tone suggested surprise. No. I mean to observe first, then decide how to proceed. Elara began final descent procedures. Unless you have a better idea, the alien's crystalline structure shifted in what Elara had come to recognize as its equivalent of a shrug. Your species' proclivity for direct action is occasionally advantageous. "Let on, Commander." The module touched down on the ocean floor with a soft thud, kicking up silt that swirled in the external lights. Elara donned her helmet and activated the suit's pressure systems, then checked the specialized sidearm she'd brought, a pulse disruptor designed for underwater operation. "Remember," she told Arix as she prepared to cycle the airlock, "our priority is the key. We stop whatever they are doing, secure the device, and get out. No heroics, no confrontations unless absolutely necessary." "Understood, Commander," Arix replied, its body reconfiguring into a more streamlined form better suited for underwater movement. "Though I feel compelled to point out that your species' definition of absolutely necessary often differs from my own." Elara allowed herself a small smile despite the gravity of their situation. "Fair point. Let's go." They exited the module into the crushing darkness of the trench. Elara's suit automatically adjusted to the extreme pressure, though she could feel the resistance with every movement. Arix, meanwhile, seemed completely unaffected, gliding through the water with effortless grace. They made their way toward the temple structure, keeping low to the ocean floor and using natural formations for cover. As they drew closer, the pulsating light grew more intense, casting eerie, shifting shadows across the ancient edifice. Elara activated her suit's enhanced vision system, zooming in on the figures moving around the temple. There were 7 of them, all wearing suits that looked like nothing she'd seen in Earth's military or scientific communities. Sleeker, more advanced, with what appeared to be crystalline components integrated into the design. "Those suits," she whispered over the comm link to Arix, "they're using your people's technology." "A crude adaptation," Arix replied, "but yes. The basic principles are Valoth in origin. They appear to have reverse-engineered salvage components, perhaps from a crashed scout vessel. Impressive resourcefulness, if deeply concerning." One of the figures broke away from the group and approached the temple entrance, carrying what looked like a cylindrical device. Even from this distance, Elara could see that it was glowing with the same pulsating energy as the temple itself. "Is that part of the key?" she asked. Arix's form rippled with what might have been alarm. "No, that is a void stabilizer. They are not trying to deactivate the fracture. They're trying to control it, to keep it open. Why would anyone want to keep a reality-destroying vortex open? The fracture doesn't just tear reality," Arix explained, voice resonating with urgency. "It creates a bridge to other dimensions, other universes. If they have discovered this capability..." Elara's blood ran cold as understanding dawned. "They are not trying to destroy the universe. They're trying to conquer others." "Precisely. And in doing so, they risk destroying everything." Arix's form contracted, crystals aligning in what Elara had learned was a combat-ready configuration. "We must act now, Commander. They're about to stabilize the connection." Elara weighed their options rapidly. 7 against 2 weren't good odds, especially in this environment. But if Arix was right, they had no choice. "Can you disable their suits remotely?" she asked. "You said they're based on your technology." "Possibly," Arix replied, "but it would require me to emit a broad-spectrum disruptor pulse. It would temporarily affect your suit as well." "How temporarily?" "Approximately 20 seconds. In this environment, I'd be crushed," Elara finished the thought. The pressure at this depth would collapse her suit and her body in moments without active countermeasures. "There's an alternative," Arix said after a moment. "I could extend my own pressure field to encompass you during the pulse. It would require direct physical contact and would significantly tax my energy reserves, but it would protect you from the pressure effects." Elara considered this. "And once their suits are disabled, they will have approximately 45 seconds before critical failure. Enough time for us to secure the key, but not enough for them to pose a threat." It was a harsh solution, potentially condemning 7 people to death by crushing pressure. But if they succeeded in stabilizing the fracture, billions more would die. "Do it," Elara said grimly. "But give them a chance to surrender first. I want to know who they are and who they're working for." Arix's form rippled in acknowledgement. "Ready when you are, Commander." Elara took a deep breath, checked her weapon, and nodded. "Let's move." They emerged from their cover and approached the temple, Elara leading with her disruptor raised. The suited figures noticed them almost immediately, their movements becoming alert and defensive. "This is Commander Elara Chen of the United Earth Defense Force," She broadcast on all frequencies. Stand down immediately and identify yourselves. For a moment, there was no response. Then, one of the figures stepped forward, activating an external speaker. Commander Chen. A voice responded, smooth and cultured with a hint of amusement. What an unexpected pleasure. I wasn't aware the UEDF had developed such interesting alliances. Something about the voice triggered a memory, but Elara couldn't quite place it. Identify yourself and explain your presence here, she demanded. Come now, Commander. Surely you recognize the voice of your own father-in-law. Elara felt as though the ocean's pressure had suddenly doubled. Victor Rourke? She whispered, then more firmly. That's impossible. You disappeared 5 years ago on the Europa mission. A chuckle came through the speaker. Disappeared, yes. Died? Evidently not. The Europa mission yielded discoveries beyond anything humanity was ready for, including the wreckage of an alien vessel. The same vessel that led me to understand what truly lies beyond our limited perception of reality. Elara's mind raced. Victor Rourke had been one of Earth's most brilliant physicists, and also the father of her late husband, David. His disappearance during a mission to Jupiter's moon had been ruled an accident after months of searching yielded nothing. Whatever you think you are doing, Rourke, it has to stop, Elara said, forcing steadiness into her voice. That device is tearing apart the fabric of the universe. On the contrary, my dear, Rourke replied, it's opening doors that humanity has every right to walk through. Doors to resources, to technologies, to whole worlds that could be ours. Why should we be confined to one universe when infinite others await? Because the process is fundamentally unstable. Arix interjected, its voice resonating through the water. Your understanding of the technology is incomplete. The fracture will continue to grow exponentially, consuming everything in its path. Rourke seemed to assess Arix with interest. Ah, one of the builders themselves. How fascinating. But I think you underestimate human ingenuity. We have made modifications to your design that should stabilize the process indefinitely. That's impossible, Arix replied. The quantum fluctuations are being contained through a novel application of tachyon field manipulation, Rourke finished. Something your people apparently never considered. Now, I'm afraid I must ask you both to leave. We are at a critical juncture in the stabilization process. Elara exchanged a quick glance with Arix, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. They were out of time. Final warning, Rourke, Elara called. Stand down and surrender the key. I'm afraid I can't do that, Elara. The future of humanity depends on what we accomplish here today. Your alien friend has kept this technology from us for too long. It's time we claimed our rightful place among the stars in all the universes. Elara made her decision. Arix now, in a fluid motion, the crystalline being enveloped Elara in its form, creating a protective cocoon around her human body. Through the translucent crystal, she watched as Arix emitted a brilliant pulse of energy that rippled outward in concentric waves. The effect was immediate. The suited figures staggered, their equipment flickering and failing as the pulse disrupted the alien technology integrated into their designs. Alarms would be blaring inside their helmets, warning of imminent system failure. 45 seconds, Commander. Arix's voice resonated through its crystalline form. We must move quickly. They advanced toward the temple, Elara still encased in Arix's protective field. Rourke and his team were scrambling, some attempting to retreat toward what must be their own submersible, others frantically working to maintain the stabilization process. You don't understand what you are doing, Rourke shouted as they approached, his suit's functions clearly compromised. If we don't complete the stabilization, the fracture will collapse catastrophically. That's the point, Elara replied grimly. It needs to collapse before it grows too large to control. They reached the temple entrance, where the cylindrical device, the void stabilizer, was now pulsing erratically. Beyond it, in the central chamber, Elara could see the source of the energy, a geometric construction of crystalline material and what looked like dark metal, hovering above an altar-like structure. The Nexus Key. 30 seconds remaining, Arix warned. The key must be deactivated properly, or the collapse could be just as dangerous as the expansion. Elara nodded, advancing toward the key while keeping her weapon trained on Rourke, who had followed them inside, despite his failing suit. "Think about Maya," Rourke said, his voice desperate now. "Think about what this could mean for her future. Access to infinite resources, infinite worlds." "I am thinking about Maya," Elara replied. "About her growing up in a universe that still exists." They reached the key, its energy pulsing in patterns that seemed to respond to their presence. Up close, Elara could see that it was indeed a hybrid of technologies. The crystalline structures clearly Valoth in origin, but modified with components that appeared almost biological in nature. "What do we do?" she asked Arix. "We must interface with it simultaneously," the alien replied. "Your consciousness pattern, combined with mine, should create the resonance needed to trigger a controlled shutdown." Elara hesitated. "And if it doesn't work? Then the fracture collapses chaotically, potentially taking this solar system with it. But the rest of the universe would survive." A grim calculation, but one Elara was prepared to make. "Tell me what to do. I will extend filaments of my consciousness into your neural pathways," Arix explained. "It will feel unusual. Then we must both touch the key simultaneously." Elara nodded, bracing herself. "Do it." Arix's crystalline form shifted, extending slender tendrils that gently touched Elara's temples. The sensation was indeed unusual, like ice and electricity and sound all at once, flowing into her mind. Suddenly, she could sense Arix's consciousness alongside her own, alien yet somehow familiar, vast and complex and beautiful in its crystalline precision. "Are you ready, Commander?" Arix's voice resonated directly in her mind. Yes, she thought back, marveling at the ease of the communication. Together, they reached for the key. As their hands, Elara's human fingers and Arix's crystalline appendages, touched the device, the world seemed to shift and expand around them. Elara felt her consciousness stretching, extending beyond the confines of her physical form, merging with Arix's in a dance of complementary patterns. Through this expanded awareness, she could perceive the fracture itself, a vast, swirling tear in the fabric of reality, pulsing with chaotic energy. She could sense other universes beyond it, infinite possibilities stretching in all directions. For a moment, she understood Rourke's temptation, the allure of unlimited exploration, unlimited potential. But she could also perceive the damage the fracture was causing, the way it strained and tore at the fundamental forces holding reality together. If left unchecked, it would indeed consume everything, leaving nothing but void in its wake. Together, Arix's consciousness guided her. Feel the pattern of the key. Match it, then invert it. Elara focused, allowing her mind to sync with the pulsing energy of the device. It was like learning to dance to a complex, ever-changing rhythm. Where her human intuition faltered, Arix's precise understanding filled the gaps. Where Arix's rigid patterns struggled to adapt, Elara's flexibility provided solutions. Gradually, they established resonance with the key. Elara could feel the power flowing through them. Around them, a current of pure potential that threatened to sweep away her sense of self. But Arix's presence anchored her, just as her humanity grounded Arix's alien consciousness. Now, Arix instructed, we invert the pattern. Together, with a synchronous mental effort, they reversed the energy flow of the key. The effect was immediate. The pulsing light began to fade, the swirling energies to contract. Through their expanded awareness, Elara could sense the fracture beginning to heal, reality knitting itself back together. But there was resistance. Something was fighting their efforts, trying to maintain the fracture's stability. With a shock of recognition, Elara realized it was Rourke. Somehow, he had interfaced with the void stabilizer, using its connection to the key to oppose them. He cannot succeed, Arix's thought came to her. But he can complicate the collapse. We must neutralize his interference. Elara focused her awareness on the connection between Rourke and the stabilizer. She could perceive it as a thread of energy, tenuous but persistent. Drawing on Arix's knowledge and her own determination, she concentrated on severing that connection. Victor Rourke, she projected, surprised to find she could communicate directly with his consciousness. You need to let go. This isn't the way. You don't understand. His response came, tinged with desperation and something else, a foreign influence that seemed to twist through his thoughts like dark vines. They promised us so much. Technologies beyond imagination. The power to reshape reality itself. Who promised? Elara asked, suddenly alarmed. Who are they? Images flooded her mind. Shadowy entities existing in the spaces between universes, ancient beyond comprehension, hungry for access to new realms. They had found Rourke when he discovered the Valoth wreckage, had whispered promises and secrets, guiding him to the temple and the key. They lied to you, Elara told him, her mental voice firm but compassionate. They're using you to break through. If the fracture stabilizes, they will come through and consume everything. That's why it has to be closed. She felt Rourke's consciousness waver, doubts seeping in. But the possibilities are not worth the cost, Elara finished. Please, Victor. For Maya. For all of us. A moment of hesitation, then resignation. Maya always did bring out the best in me. Rourke's thought came, tinged with sadness. Like her father. Like you. The connection between Rourke and the stabilizer severed. Immediately, Elara and Arix redoubled their efforts, channeling their combined consciousness into inverting the key's energy pattern completely. The light from the key pulsed once, twice, then began to contract rapidly. Elara could feel reality around them shifting, healing, the tear in the universe closing like a wound, knitting itself together. We need to disconnect, Arix warned. The energy backflow will be substantial. With a final, synchronized effort, they withdrew their consciousness from the key. Arix retracted the tendrils connecting them, leaving Elara suddenly alone in her own mind again. The experience so jarring she nearly lost her balance. The key was now pulsing with a steady, diminishing light, its power clearly receding. But as Arix had predicted, energy was arcing from it in random bursts, causing the temple structure to shudder and crack. We need to leave, Elara shouted, looking around for Rourke. He was slumped against a column, his suit systems clearly on the verge of complete failure. Without thinking, she moved toward him. Commander, there isn't time, Arix warned, its voice back to normal, separate from her mind. I'm not leaving him, Elara replied firmly. She reached Rourke and activated her suit's emergency oxygen share, connecting it to his failing system. Can you walk? Rourke looked up at her, his expression visible through his helmet's faceplate, a mixture of resignation and gratitude. Why would you save me after what I have done? Because that's what humans do, Elara replied, helping him to his feet. We save each other, even when it doesn't make sense. Now move. Together, the three of them made their way out of the collapsing temple, Elara supporting Rourke while Arix cleared debris from their path. The other members of Rourke's team were nowhere to be seen. Either they had made it to their submersible, or the ocean had claimed them when their suits failed. They reached Elara's descent module just as a massive energy pulse erupted from the temple, sending a shockwave through the water that nearly knocked them off their feet. The module's systems flickered but remained operational as they cycled through the airlock and sealed it behind them. Lieutenant Park, Elara called as soon as the comm system was online. Immediate extraction required. 3 to transport. Copy that, Commander. Park's voice came back, tight with relief. Glad to hear you are alive. The anomaly is showing signs of collapse. Whatever you did down there, it's working. Elara glanced at Arix, whose crystalline form seemed dimmer than before, its movements slower. Are you all right? The interface process required significant energy expenditure, the alien replied. I will require time to regenerate. But yes, I am. All right. The ascent was tense, but uneventful. Through the viewport, they could see the temple imploding behind them, collapsing in on itself as the key's energy dissipated. By the time they reached the surface, the Resilient was reporting that the void fracture had reduced to 15% of its previous size and was continuing to shrink. Aboard the ship, medical personnel took charge of Rourke, who offered no resistance. He looked older than Elara remembered, his face lined with weariness and something that might have been regret. What will happen to him? Arix asked as they watched him being led away. He will face charges, Elara replied. But his knowledge of the Valoth technology and those entities he encountered might be valuable. I suspect he will spend the rest of his life in some high-security research facility rather than a prison. Arix's form shifted thoughtfully. And what of us, Commander Chen? Our mission is complete. Elara turned to face the alien being who had become, against all odds, something like a friend. That depends. Is there more of your technology out there that we should be concerned about? Undoubtedly. Arix replied. The universe is vast, and my people explored much of it before withdrawing to our collective consciousness. There may be other artifacts, other potential threats. Then maybe our mission isn't complete after all, Elara said. Maybe it's just beginning. Arix's crystalline structure seemed to brighten slightly. Are you proposing a continued partnership? I'm proposing that neither of us could have closed that fracture alone. It took both of us, human and Valoth, emotion and logic, intuition and precision. Maybe there's a lesson in that. Indeed. Arix agreed, its form shifting into what Elara had come to recognize as its equivalent of smile. Your species continues to surprise me, Commander. Perhaps the universe has brought us together for a purpose beyond this single crisis. Elara looked out at the stars visible through the ship's viewport, thinking of Maya, of Earth, of all the lives that would continue because of what they had accomplished together. I think you might be right, she said, and I think we're just getting started. As the Resilient set course for Earth, Elara felt a sense of possibility she hadn't experienced since before her husband's death. The universe was indeed vast, filled with dangers but also with wonders. And humanity, with all its flaws and strengths, had earned its place among the stars, not through conquest or dominion, but through cooperation, compassion, and the indomitable will to survive against impossible odds. Humanity. Fuck yeah.